America witnessed something extraordinary last night, a moment when sports and politics collided in the most unexpected way. NBA superstar Jayson Tatum broke his silence on national television, delivering a devastating blow to Vice President JD Vance over healthcare cuts that are tearing communities apart. It all started when Vance pushed forward his controversial fiscal responsibility package, slashing billions from public health programs. In a July 1st statement that shocked the nation, Vance dismissed the human cost as immaterial, calling Medicaid cuts mere minutiae compared to immigration enforcement priorities. But Tatum, recovering from his Achilles injury and watching from his St. Louis hometown, couldn't stay silent. During what was supposed to be a routine ESPN interview about his foundation's mental health campaign, the Celtic star pivoted to politics with raw emotion that left viewers stunned. How are we supposed to inspire kids when the people running the country are cutting off their access to basic health care? Tatum said, his voice rising. JD Vance talks about America first, but whose America is he protecting? Not the one I grew up in. Do you think athletes should speak out on political issues, or should they stick to sports? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. The clip went viral within minutes, sparking a firestorm across social media. Tatum Speaks Truth began trending as millions shared his words, but the backlash was swift too. Conservative commentators accused him of being a woke athlete, pushing liberal propaganda. This isn't just another celebrity political moment. This is about the growing divide between America's political elite and the voices of resistance emerging from unexpected places. Today, we break down the explosive confrontation that has the entire nation talking. The healthcare cuts that sparked outrage. To understand Tatum's fury, we need to examine what JD Vance actually proposed. The Vice President's One Big Beautiful Bill represents the most aggressive attack on public health care in decades, with cuts so severe they've drawn criticism from both sides of the aisle. The numbers are staggering. Vance's proposal slashes $47 billion from Medicaid over the next 3 years, targeting programs that serve 17 million low-income Americans. Public health clinics face a 60% funding reduction, while mental health programs, especially those serving veterans and minority communities, could lose up to 80% of federal support. The human impact is devastating. In St. Louis, where Tatum grew up, 5 community health centers are already preparing to close. The city's free mental health program for teens, one that Tatum's foundation has supported, faces complete elimination. But it's Vance's justification that truly ignited controversy. During his July 1st press briefing, the Vice President was asked about families losing coverage. His response was chilling. Everything else, the CBO score, the proper baseline, the minutiae of the Medicaid policy, is immaterial compared to the ICE money and immigration enforcement provisions. Is it ever acceptable for politicians to call healthcare access minutiae? What do you think this says about their priorities? Let us know in the comments. Minutiae. That single word encapsulates everything critics find wrong with the current administration's approach. Democratic Representative Ro Khanna captured the mood perfectly, tweeting, "What happened to you, JD Vance, author of Hillbilly Elegy, now shrugging off Medicaid cuts that will close rural hospitals and kick millions off healthcare as minutiae?" The irony is impossible to ignore. Vance built his political career on his memoir about growing up poor in Ohio, writing movingly about his grandmother's struggles with healthcare access. Yet now, as Vice President, he's systematically dismantling the very programs that help families like his own. The Congressional Budget Office confirmed the cuts would disproportionately impact communities of color, single mothers, and rural areas, exactly the demographics Vance once claimed to represent. Internal White House documents, leaked to the Washington Post, show the administration knew the cuts would force 2.3 million children off healthcare coverage. Yet Vance pressed forward, defending the decision as necessary to fund Trump's immigration crackdown. "We've got to stop spending so much on welfare benefits," he declared, echoing talking points from the controversial Project 2025 agenda that seeks to privatize Medicare and gut Medicaid entirely. This is the backdrop against which Jayson Tatum decided he could no longer remain silent. Tatum's explosive ESPN moment, Bristol, Connecticut, ESPN Studios, July 2nd, 2025, 7:30 p.m. ET. What started as a routine interview about Tatum's foundation quickly became the most watched sports segment of the year. Host Adrian Wojnarowski had invited the Celtic star to discuss his tornado relief efforts in St. Louis, but the conversation took an unexpected turn. Tatum appeared via video call from his hometown, where he's been recovering from his May Achilles injury. The foundation's work has taken on new urgency since the devastating tornado that hit St. Louis in May, damaging 5,000 buildings and killing 5 people. Tatum's foundation has already collected over £52,000 of supplies for affected families. Your foundation focuses heavily on mental health support for young people, Wojnarowski noted. How has the recent tornado impacted those efforts? That's when Tatum's demeanor shifted. His usual media-trained responses gave way to raw emotion. That's exactly what I want to talk about, Woj. But it's not just about the tornado anymore. It's about what's happening in Washington. Wojnarowski looked surprised as Tatum continued. Yesterday, JD Vance called healthcare for kids minutia. Minutia? Do you know what that word means to a 12-year-old who can't afford therapy after watching their house get destroyed? It means they don't matter. Was this the right moment for Tatum to make this statement? Should he have stayed focused on his foundation work? Share your perspective below. The basketball star's voice cracked with emotion. I grew up in St. Louis. My mom was 19 when she had me. We struggled to afford healthcare. If it wasn't for programs that JD Vance wants to cut, I might not be sitting here today. Tatum referenced his foundation's partnership with local mental health clinics, many of which face closure under Vance's cuts. We're trying to help kids process trauma, deal with depression, get the support they need. And then the Vice President of the United States says their healthcare is immaterial. That's not the America I want to represent. The moment that made headlines came next. Looking directly into the camera, Tatum delivered his most pointed criticism. JD Vance talks about America first, but whose America is he protecting? Not the single mothers working 2 jobs who need Medicaid, not the veterans dealing with PTSD who rely on public mental health services, not the kids in my neighborhood who deserve the same chances I got. ESPN's studio fell silent. Wojnarowski, veteran of countless controversial interviews, seemed genuinely stunned. Jayson, those are some strong words about the vice president. They're not strong enough, Tatum replied. When you have a platform, you have a responsibility. I can't sit here talking about helping kids while the government actively hurts them. That's not leadership, that's cowardice. Do you think Tatum's criticism was fair? Or did he cross a line by attacking the vice president so directly? Let us know what you think. The interview ended abruptly, with ESPN cutting to commercial. But the damage, or depending on your perspective, the healing, had already begun. Within minutes, clips of Tatum's statement were circulating across every social media platform, turning a routine sports interview into a national political moment. Social media erupts and America divides. The reaction was instantaneous and explosive. Within 30 minutes of the ESPN interview, Tatum Speaks Truth was trending nationwide, accumulating over 500,000 mentions in the first hour alone. America found itself sharply divided between those praising Tatum's courage and others condemning his entry into politics. The support came from unexpected quarters. LeBron James, who has navigated his own political controversies, tweeted simply, "Truth, respect Jayson Tatum." Stephen Curry added, "This is what leadership looks like, using your platform to stand up for those who can't speak for themselves." Medical professionals rallied behind Tatum's message. Dr. Vivek Murthy, former Surgeon General, posted, "When athletes understand healthcare policy better than policymakers, we have a serious problem. Thank you, Jayson Tatum Zero, for speaking up for vulnerable communities." Who do you trust more on healthcare issues? Politicians or people who've actually experienced these struggles firsthand? Tell us in the comments. But the backlash was equally fierce. Conservative commentator Tucker Carlson devoted his opening segment to attacking Tatum. Another millionaire athlete lecturing working Americans about politics. Jayson Tatum makes $50 million a year. What does he know about real struggle? The criticism intensified when it was revealed that Tatum's foundation had received federal grants totaling $2.3 million over the past 2 years. Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene tweeted, "Jayson Tatum bites the hand that feeds him. Maybe we should audit his foundation's use of taxpayer money." The divide reflected deeper cultural tensions. Rural conservatives saw Tatum as another out-of-touch elite pushing liberal talking points. Urban progressives viewed him as a rare celebrity willing to risk his brand for social justice. Sports media found itself in uncharted territory. ESPN faced immediate pressure from conservative viewers threatening boycotts. Fox Sports host Skip Bayless called for Tatum to be suspended from the NBA for bringing politics into sports. Meanwhile, liberal outlets praised ESPN for giving Tatum a platform. The most surprising support came from within the NBA itself. Coaches and players who typically avoid political statements began speaking out. Steve Kerr, Warriors coach and frequent political commentator, said, "Jayson showed incredible bravery. Healthcare isn't partisan. It's human." Even retired players joined the conversation. Charles Barkley, known for his contrarian takes, surprised many by defending Tatum. The young man spoke from his heart about his community. That's not politics, that's leadership. The controversy reached new heights when conservative groups began calling for boycotts of Tatum's sponsors. Nike, SoFi, and Jordan Brand faced pressure to drop their partnerships. So far, all have remained silent, but industry insiders suggest closed-door conversations are happening about the commercial impact of Tatum's statements. America was watching and choosing sides. The political establishment responds. Washington's reaction to Tatum's critique revealed the deep fault lines running through American politics. While the White House maintained official silence, behind-the-scenes maneuvering suggested the administration was rattled by criticism from such an unexpected source. Vice President Vance's office initially declined to comment, but pressure mounted throughout the day. Finally, during a scheduled Fox News appearance, Vance addressed the controversy with characteristic dismissiveness. "I don't take policy advice from people who bounce balls for a living. Jayson Tatum should stick to what he knows." The response backfired spectacularly. Social media exploded with reminders of Vance's own background, from venture capitalist to politician based largely on a memoir about his childhood. JD Vance wrote one book and thinks he's qualified to be VP, but an athlete who lived the struggle can't speak about healthcare, tweeted comedian Trevor Noah. Do you think Vance's stick-to-sports response was appropriate, or does it show disrespect for Americans who dare to question his policies? Share your thoughts. Democrats seized the moment with coordinated messaging. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer called an impromptu press conference. When Jayson Tatum speaks about healthcare access, he's speaking from personal experience. When JD Vance cuts healthcare, he's speaking from privilege. Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez went further, inviting Tatum to testify before Congress about the impact of healthcare cuts on communities. "We need voices like his in the halls of power," she tweeted, along with a video of Tatum's ESPN appearance. The moment also exposed cracks within the Republican Party. Senator Susan Collins of Maine, whose state relies heavily on Medicaid funding, broke ranks. "I disagree with dismissing anyone's perspective on healthcare. Mr. Ive. Tatum's foundation does important work in underserved communities." Even more damaging was criticism from within Trump's base. Rural hospital administrators, facing closure under Vance's cuts, found themselves agreeing with the NBA star. "Jayson Tatum understands what's at stake better than our own vice president," said Dr. Sarah Matthews, who runs a clinic in rural Ohio, Vance's home state. The administration's response grew more defensive as the story gained momentum. Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt attempted damage control. "The vice president's policies will strengthen healthcare by eliminating waste and focusing resources where they're most needed." But fact-checkers quickly debunked this narrative. The proposed cuts target direct patient care, not administrative overhead. Hospitals would lose funding for emergency services, mental health programs, and preventive care, exactly the services Tatum highlighted. Internal polling leaked to Politico showed the controversy was hurting the administration among suburban voters, particularly college-educated women who saw Tatum's intervention as authentic and Vance's response as tone-deaf. The political establishment was learning a harsh lesson. In the age of social media, dismissing popular voices comes with serious consequences. The broader implications for sports and politics. Tatum's confrontation with Vance represents more than a single moment of celebrity activism. It signals a fundamental shift in how athletes view their role in American society. The days of shut up and dribble are definitively over, replaced by a generation of sports figures who see their platforms as tools for social change. This evolution didn't happen overnight. It began with Colin Kaepernick's protest against police brutality, accelerated through LeBron James's political activism, and reached new heights during the social justice movements of 2020. But Tatum's healthcare intervention marks something different, a direct policy confrontation with sitting government officials. The timing is significant. Tatum spoke while sidelined by injury, eliminating the usual concerns about on-court distractions. His message came from his hometown, grounding his criticism in personal experience rather than abstract political theory. Most importantly, he focused on an issue, healthcare access, that transcends traditional partisan divides. The response from other athletes has been overwhelmingly supportive, suggesting a new norm is emerging. Phoenix Suns star Devin Booker announced his foundation would partner with Tatum's on healthcare advocacy. WNBA players, led by Breanna Stewart, organized a collective statement supporting Tatum's right to speak on policy issues. Do you think this moment will encourage more athletes to speak out on political issues? Is that good or bad for sports? Let us know where you stand. Corporate sponsors face new calculations. Traditional sports marketing avoided political controversy, but younger demographics increasingly expect brands to take stands on social issues. Early indicators suggest Tatum's sponsors view his activism as authentic brand building, rather than damaging controversy. The implications extend beyond sports. Tatum's intervention demonstrates how traditional media gatekeeping has collapsed. A single athlete's ESPN appearance now carries more political weight than many senators' speeches. This democratization of influence terrifies establishment politicians, but empowers marginalized voices. For healthcare policy specifically, Tatum's criticism has energized opposition to Vance's cuts. Patient advocacy groups report surge in volunteers and donations. Congressional Democrats are planning hearings featuring athletes and celebrities affected by the proposed reductions. The broader question remains: in an era of declining trust in institutions, are celebrity voices becoming more credible than elected officials? Tatum's moment suggests the answer might be yes, especially when those celebrities speak from genuine experience rather than scripted talking points. America is witnessing the birth of a new form of political discourse, where moral authority matters more than official titles. 5 days after Jayson Tatum's explosive ESPN appearance, America is still processing what happened. A 27-year-old basketball player recovering from injury delivered one of the most effective critiques of government policy in recent memory, not through policy papers or political rallies, but with raw emotion and personal truth. The numbers tell the story. Tatum's original statement has been viewed over 50 million times across platforms. Tatum speaks, truth continues trending. Most importantly, congressional offices report unprecedented calls opposing healthcare cuts, with many callers specifically mentioning Tatum's words. JD Vance's stick-to-sports response has become a political liability. Internal GOP polling shows his minutiae comment testing as one of the most damaging statements of his vice presidency. Even conservative voters recoil from dismissing healthcare access as unimportant. But this story is bigger than one confrontation. Tatum has shown a new generation of athletes that they don't need permission to speak truth to power. His success, measured in changed conversations rather than poll numbers, proves that authenticity resonates more than political calculation. The Celtics star never intended to become a political figure. He simply saw injustice and used his platform to fight it. That organic quality makes his intervention impossible to dismiss as manufactured outrage or celebrity grandstanding. Moving forward, expect more athletes to follow Tatum's lead. The traditional boundaries between sports and politics are crumbling, replaced by a new understanding that social justice requires everyone's participation. As for the healthcare cuts that started this controversy, they face an uncertain future. Tatum's criticism has given Democrats talking points and Republicans headaches. Sometimes the most effective political opposition comes from the most unexpected sources. Jayson Tatum proved that courage doesn't require a cape. Sometimes it just requires a conscience and a microphone. In a democracy, that might be enough to change everything. The game, as they say, has changed forever.